federation of our money means business, and we always say business means money, stability, and business means a lot of money. And a lot more actually means business and money. And today we're talking different myriads of issues concerning the tourism movement, interactions in ways between Egypt and the other Arab countries, how to boost that, what's going on in this arena, what's new in the field of tourism. This and a lot more that we'll find out with our guests. And we have with us Mr. Walid al-Batouti, who's the representative of the World Federation of Tourist Guides Association, Middle East and North Africa. Welcome, sir, with us here.
Thank you for having me.
And we do have also with us Mr. Michel William, international trainer, Worldwide Federation of Tourist Guides Association. Welcome again. You actually, first and not last time, I hope, with us here on Money Means Business. And we are going to start our talk right after this short break. We're going for a short break, after which we'll be back again. Stay tuned to us, don't go away.
Egypt has uniquely undergone two revolutions in less than 3 years for better living and the rule of democracy. Egypt remains, after all, as an attractive investment destination despite the difficulties it faced. Ahead of the 2011 revolution, the Egyptian economy was performing well, as confirmed by all KPIs.
Very confident about the Egyptian market. The main factors or the main pillars of the Egyptian economy are still here, and they're not going anywhere.
Egypt is a good place to invest, first of all, because it's a big market. It's a big local market. It's a good geographical location. You have good people, and the costs are competitive. It's a great place. It was, it is, and it will be a great place to invest.
Back again to Money Means Business, and our guests are Mr. Michel William, international trainer, the World Federation of Tourist Guides Association. Welcome again, sir, with us here. And we have with us Mr. Walid al-Batouti, representative of the World Federation of Tourist Guides Association, the Middle East and North Africa. Welcome again with us. And I'm Nermi Nazim, hosting you in this episode, actually. And, well, should I start? A lot has been happening since, or we've seen some developments, but are they just really affecting positively the situation in Egypt concerning tourism? What has been happening since we last met?
Well, if I may say, right now, when we talk, we always differentiated the tourism that we receive in Egypt. It's either the beach tourism, and that concerns the Red Sea, Sinai and Hurghada and Marsa Alam, or the culture tourism, which is Cairo, Luxor and Aswan. The culture tourism has been doing well. It's picking up. I can say that the American market is on ground right now with fairly good numbers. But since we overdeal in this program, so we have to mention a little bit of economy. If you look around and see what's happening, we had the very successful visit of the King of Saudi Arabia. He was here. And then we have tomorrow, we have the deputy of the Chancellor of Germany.
Yes.
And then
100 businessmen coming with him actually to talk business.
Yes, and there is a very good preparation. And then we have the visit of Hollande, the President of France.
We had the Mitsubishi also company.
There's a lot of things happening.
Yes.
Unfortunately, most of the people, they listen to the local media, the talk show. Some of them are positive and some of them are negative, and all what they're doing is these days they are accelerating a little bit and boosting more of a negative energy.
Yes.
Which I really see no reason for doing that. On the other hand, if you read The Economist doesn't want anything from Egypt. Okay, these people, they get paid well to put facts. Okay, The Economist in the last edition, they're saying that Egypt economy in 2020 will be one of the strongest in the world. Okay. From the current things, if you lay a map and look at what's happening, you can really see it. It's happening. It's coming, and that's why I was just talking with Mr. Michael coming over that they are accelerating as well on creating problems to you.
Yes.
Putting some obstacles on the way.
Sure.
So it's either you're going to be smart and jump over these obstacles and be very optimistic and stay with it, or you can listen to the local media and the guy with the suspenders and the other one and this one and this one, and all of them, they're just boosting negative energy. The choice is yours. It's either you want to be with the successful people, or you can sit and moan. That's in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think we have two different issues. The first one is that there are lots of things happening. It's not just what Walid said, but the Russian president was here and the Chinese president was here. So there are lots of things showing that we are on the way. Egypt is getting back to its real position in the world. The president is making an effort trying to get connections and trying to get people over here. We've seen the Sharm el-Sheikh summit. And it was successful, but we have also to be prepared. I thought that we have had in the tourism sector, we've had 3 ministers that served like 4 terms, because the last minister Zazor been twice as a minister, and we needed lots of preparation. We needed to seize the opportunity that we have with the tourism going down in the last 5 years. We needed to prepare ourselves to rearrange the house from inside, change laws and encourage people to invest and to create lots of things, and to have a management crisis. We were in a crisis, right? So we needed to solve this crisis. If the European market, for example, is against us at the moment, maybe politically they are forced to do it so, we should have looked for other markets, and we should have seized the opportunity that the Chinese president was here, and we needed to facilitate more of the airlines and start other destinations, and as I can see that from my point of view, that the president is maybe one step ahead of everybody, right? So I expected that when the president is hosting the King of Saudi Arabia, and they are announcing that there will be a bridge between the two countries, that immediately the tourism sector should target the Arab tourism and start working on that, right? Say, for example, that if the number of the Arab tourism is like 12 million people or 12 million tourists, only maybe 15% visiting the Arab countries. They all go to Europe and the States and maybe other places like Malaysia now and other destinations. Why don't we should have attracted more people to come to overcome the crisis that we have lost many of the tourism from the main supplies in the European countries, especially the spending money of the the single Arab tourist could be like 5 times more than a European. So we have two things. First thing is to that we have a chance that Egypt relations with the rest of the world is getting better. The other thing is that we should do a lot more.
Of course. Well, everybody says that. We know that we should do a lot more. Unfortunately, the president has been pushing for this, and we see that like many like segments are lagging behind, or just they're not working as fast as the president to cope, with him. Well, considering this new bridge, how do you think it will benefit us?
Definitely. There is lots of benefits that's going to come out of it. Right. Just this afternoon, I was reading that some people have asked if there will be a railroad, a train.
Yes.
Bear in mind, the train will be a lot faster because the train will have the station somewhere further than the end of the bridge on this side or this side, and then you could have immigration done on the other side or on this side. You could do the custom check, you could do the security check, so the matter of crossing, it'll be a lot easier, because then you don't have people are held for hours here on the borders before they got on the bridge on this side or that on the other side, or they get stopped on the other side. So you may be able to finish all the immigration, all the custom, everything, security further from. Definitely the two countries will benefit out of this. Again, I want to go back to and say Egypt 2020 is expected to have a booming economy, and 2020 is in 4 years from now, 3 years from now, almost we're done with now 2016. And as Mr. Michael was saying, you can see from the number of people that came, definitely the president of China did not have a spare time or a weekend, so he wanted to spend it in Egypt. Definitely he came because he wants to seize an opportunity as well to have a hand here, especially Egypt has a very strategic position in the Middle East, and we're the key player. Again, I want to go back to the people who sits and do nothing. It's like there are some people, they say, why you go on television? Right? Well, I go on television because you don't get to go, because you don't know what to do and you don't know how to talk, and you're just a loser, right? You don't understand.
Most of them.
Okay, so there's lots of them.
Yes.
They don't understand. This country has an image abroad. This TV show is monitored and is watched by some people who really watch who is your guest. Do they speak English? Do they understand what they're talking about? Or not, right? So number one, the producer of the program over here, he goes and fetch for the right people who has information and can speak the language, but you don't want anybody to sit on air and start collecting the verbs from here and there. That's one thing. Second, this country needs to use everything, every resource that they could use. Okay, they don't understand this, and again, they don't want to work. And he keeps saying, the president keeps saying, the only answer to these people is keep on working.
Yes.
Keep on working. We have a parliament. That's what everybody should settle down and sit. We have a parliament, right? Nothing is going to be passed through. The parliament is going to check everything and make sure that the logistics is fine. And the parliament, you went down. Don't say I did not vote. It's your problem. If you didn't go and vote for someone, it is your problem. Your representative is going to vote against your will. You could have gone and voted for the one that you think he's going to represent you. So this is going to be a good lesson to everyone, especially the people who are using Facebook as it's their source of information.
That's a calamity. We see lots of things like wrong information, even pictures that like when I say like videos, and then you find voice put on that says things not said by the speaker actually.
And then the people they just, but it's on Facebook, and they scream about it, and then they think it's fact. You know what?
Yeah.
We need to. I don't think the people that we're talking about, they understand what we're talking about anyway. But if anybody can translate to them and tell them, read a book, right? Read a single book in your life. Then come and talk to us. You did not read a book, right? You know nothing. And then you want to come and sit and talk, and you want to have an opinion. And some they say, oh, because the youth has to be, well, hello? There is some very good youth, right? I've seen them a lot. I mean, and I can give you examples of some very good youth who've cut their way, and they've done really good job, and they're good representatives. I mean, yesterday I was watching the Egyptian squash player. He's the champion of the world, right? And this guy is very quiet. I mean, it's my first time even to know his name. But he is the champion of the world, is Egyptian. The Minister of Youth got on the phone, spoke to him, and he said, we're very proud of you. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. And we want you to teach more and encourage more of your age and things like this. There is some positive things happening in the country. Don't tell me.
They were not there before, actually, the positive things, like we've got, so many, people, youth, coming out right now, with that,
But Walid brought an important issue, which is that we don't address the people, the world,
yes,
very well up till now. We still haven't used all our tools. We haven't used the right people that the word that can come across quite well, and people understand it.
We speak the same language. We have to accommodate.
We have a problem with that.
Yes.
We have a problem with that. And from our side, I remember whether in conventions of the World Federation or in any convention where there are lots of other people, when they hear the truth about Egypt from somebody that loves the country and can pass the word. And I remember maybe a month ago we were talking about a young gentleman who is a tourist guide and went to Australia, which is it's far away, and he made a few speeches and lectures, and the amount of feedback from an individual. We have with the official bodies that are responsible for talking to the world, we have a problem with that. We need to change this. We need to rely on the right people, so our word can be heard and we can come across better.
We can do the right thing. You said, before, you had a tourist who came here, then, she went there and she wrote a book.
She wrote a book, yes. I got home on Thursday. I got back home and I found a big parcel at home, and it was from abroad, which I used to get this before 2010, in 2010, and before that, every day, every week, you got a lot of gifts that comes to you from your clients. This slowed down a little bit, but I was so excited, so I opened it, I found her book. She told me about her book before. She says, I wrote a book about Egypt, the route to Egypt, a guide to Egypt. Can you imagine? And she printed that in Australia, and she did a lot of book signage. And lots of times she wrote to me about book signage that she did about her book and everything. And then I've opened the book and I start reading quickly. And after maybe 5-6 pages, I start to see my name when she started talking about Egypt. And we came to Egypt and Waleed told us and things like this. So I was so excited, and I went to the pyramid, Giza, and the step pyramid, Saqqara, and I took pictures with the book, and I even went out with some friends and I took pictures with the book, and I wrote a very nice little post, and I posted the pictures at the pyramid. I know that how this is very good for her too, and I tagged her, and all her friends were so excited to see her, that her book made it to the person that she was inspired to write the book about Egypt. See, as Michael says, how an individual can do something for his country.
Definitely.
It is very satisfactory. Going back to the gentleman that Michael was talking about, one individual, he's a young guy, speaks perfect English, real English, okay? And he went to Australia, and at the end of his speech, he said to them, in Egypt, we're fighting terrorism, and we're really going a real battle. If you support terrorism, don't come to Egypt. Mm-hmm. If you want to support fighting terrorism, come to Egypt. It was very strong. Right? What we want to do is we really want to have a good start, and we want to clean up all the losers. We have to move them out of the way. One guy, and God knows in the past when things were not that good, I don't know how he managed to get a PhD, right? We need to check this. And then he says, I speak seven foreign languages. And he do have them in his license, as he says, right? 7 foreign languages, and you do not speak the language. When he had something in promoting that he does that, and wait a minute, this is not English. This is not Chinese, this is not Indian, this is not Italian, this is not Japanese. It's different.
Nothing is there.
Nothing is there. Right?
Totally contrary to what...
And then this guy says, I want to teach others. This is a crime. You want to teach? Wait, you need somebody to teach you.
Yes.
Yeah, but that leads me to another important issue, really, which is we are... due to the crisis in the last 5 years, we are losing 35 to 40% of our force as a labor force in the tourism, in the tourism business, and that's not just the tourist guide, but also in the whether the hotellerie business or in the operators or the travel agents. We're losing many of these people, and sadly, that the quality of the labor force that came up to replace these people, sadly they haven't really worked or didn't get the chance to work a lot. But the standard is going down. And that's what I meant by that the ministers of tourism should have put a plan to rearrange the house. They should have sat with the Minister of Education and started to have a look at the curriculums that are taught in our universities, which is sadly didn't change over the past 30 years.
Do you mind if I interrupt you, Michael?
As a trainer, as an international trainer, when I go and train in other countries, I don't know the history of Malaysia or Brunei or Indonesia quite well. But when I go there, we train for the techniques. So we need to have an individual that can speak the language and understand the culture, not just the language, but the language as a part of the culture of the people he's talking to, and also the techniques that he should use to practice this job. And that's what's not happening here, and that's what I hope My friends, whether the Magid Nigm, I know is the dean of the...
No, he's the vice president, of the Hedwan University. But let me tell you something. Let's not mourn and complain. No.
I'm not mourning.
I'm interrupting you for a second.
I'm just saying that we need.
Can I say one word? What can we do? That's what I'm saying. We've wasted 5 years. I'm telling you. We admit that we've wasted 5 years. What can we do now? Let's start. Let's give the government. Don't you think when we sit? Let's tell them.
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
The new minister. I had a meeting with the new minister.
What should be done? You have to tell
Yeah, I
them
went with the minister.
correctly.
Yeah, and you have to be realistic. We had a meeting with the current minister, the new one. Fantastic. The minister of antiquity, who is colleague, and we went to school together. Fantastic. The guy did not probably spend a couple of hours in his office, and he's touring everywhere, and he's writing reports, and he's checking, and he's doing a follow-up. That's the most important thing, the follow-up, is they go up. The current minister is a graduate of the Faculty of Tourism and Hotel Management, so he understands, and he did study. He did not take it by experience. No, he has the knowledge. He has the know-how, right? And he's working, he's studying all the files that is in front of him right now, and he's working, and he's having a hand, and he started to talk to the people, to the right people, because unfortunately, in the past 5 years, we had people who jumped in positions that know nothing. They said,
on air now. We're on air.
Yes.
Right. I'm sending a message to the Minister of Tourism and the Minister of Education and all the dean of the faculties of tourism and hotels that I can put the right curriculum for teaching tourist guiding, the latest techniques in the world. I can put it in their hands, and they can do something if it's.
They're really willing to, go for progress, real progress.
Yes.
That and address the problems that we have here. In addressing the world actually, and tourists. How to get tourists here, how to just solve the problem. You have to speak in the language of others.
What I said is, like, say, Walid is a successful tourist guide because he knows how to talk, how to be an effective speaker, which is the teaching of guiding should be.
Yes.
Not just concentrating on the core knowledge as it is at the moment.
Well, the core knowledge actually can be.
Just part
do
you want to tell her that you led the first ever training in Brunei?
Yes, I did. The first training in Brunei, which is a sultanate in Asia.
Yes.
And they were. It's a small country, very rich in oil, and they were trying to start tourism, especially that they have one of the best pristine forests. They have forests, and it's not an old country, but they have forests that are really something to see. And they thought that Malaysia is doing well with tourism, Indonesia, which are its neighbors, and they started a program for to encourage tourism. And I gave the first training for the people there, and they chose, even the natives, the locals, they don't really speak English very well, so they started trying to get people from other countries, from neighboring countries like Philippines and Malaysia. And all the countries are trying to get part of the share in tourism.
Of course.
Tourism is becoming one of the most important industries, especially that it also operates more than 70, 80 subsidiary industries, right? And it's something that goes to the pockets of the people. It's a very good way of development. And Egypt speaks for itself. I mean,
Egypt is,
I went and did a training in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And I was there for the first, throughout the kingdom, almost between 600 to 700 first-hand tour guides in Saudi Arabia. I was there, I did the training course, and they did the test, the curriculum of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and they issued the license for them. What I'm trying to say is Egyptians are being used, their expertise are abroad. I mean, when the World Federation calls for an Egyptian to go to Sultan of Brunei and to conduct a training there, it has been the first ever. So it will always go down the line that the first ever one person came to give a training was an Egyptian. Right? His name is Mr. Fulan, you know.
But not an Egyptian, a very qualified, you know, trainer, and, you know, like someone of high caliber.
But the important issue here is that can we use these people?
Yes.
I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about like all the right ones.
Yes.
Right.
That's the right ones to be used, not, you know, to put because of well, you know, seniority, whatever, you know, you put.
No, someone's got a PhD because he did ride the elevator with another guy. I mean, give me a break.
Egypt is a big country.
Yes.
And the population is 90 millions.
Yes.
And many of these people are bright. Right. Just a question is, can we use the right ones?
Well, we can certainly, but you know, they should be allowing them to be put in a place to be able to just spread the knowledge and use their own qualifications in order to do that. The question is, are they going to allow them to do this or not? Are they going to pick up the bright ones, you know, like qualified to do the job or not?
I have something very interesting. I'm actually in the middle of a tour. I had yesterday and today and tomorrow. So yesterday was my first day, and the couple is American, and they said, Waleed, I mean, we had to come. We couldn't wait. It has been so long we're waiting to come to Egypt. And she said, my husband is getting older, and I can't wait. I love Egypt. I'm an adventurous, so I decided to come. I know. She said that from reading The Economy about Egypt,
Yes.
she says this cannot be what the media says about this country. If this country is developing so rapidly like this, there's something wrong. So she believed their innocence on this side, and she came anyway. So yesterday we did the tour to the pyramid, and you know they had a great time. Coming back from the pyramid, she loosened up a little bit, the lady, and she said, Waleed, I got to tell you, I was so afraid because the media was saying, and I've been reading, today you have people are going out to the street to do demonstration. And I said, oh yes, okay, I know what you're talking about. She said, but don't worry, that's in Tahrir Square. I said, okay, and I told the driver, he said, no, there was nothing. I told the driver, continue, because we're going back to the hotel. I said, continue going. We're going to go to the hotel via Tahrir Square.
Yes.
So as we ran there, and she says, what is this? We drove by this place coming from the airport. I said, yes, I know. We park and we go down. She said, what's that? I said, that's Tahrir Square. She said, oh my God, Waleed, here's my son just sent me and says, Mom, watch out, they're saying, and I said, your son is watching? I'm sorry if I could say the TV channel, Al Jazeera.
Exactly.
And I said, yes. I said, okay, now we're going to do the opposite. You're going to come down, we'll stop the car, and then the traffic police guy says, I said, excuse me, give us a minute. And I explained to the officer, he says, okay, you keep the car, no problem. I got her right in the middle of Tahrir Square, and she took pictures here and there, everywhere, and I said, you're going to post it now. She said, oh, I've got to go back for the Wi-Fi. I said, no, I'll give you Wi-Fi from my phone, but you post it right now. And she posted to her son, and she says, right from the middle of demonstration in Egypt, I'm having fun, there is nobody. You know, it's like, and I says,
exactly, they say one thing, it's like, there's nothing of that. You say
this is your job.
Yes.
Is that, like, we have to reach the people.
Yes.
One way or another. You know, we just can't be in a building like this. God, this is a huge building.
That can do a lot.
We need to reach the people out there and tell them the truth about our country. This is our job.
Yes, exactly. This is what's, like, you know, exactly what's happening tomorrow. I said, what's happening tomorrow? It was like, you know, tours, you know, they just said that they can say whatever they like. There's nothing happening tomorrow. You know, like, and they're like every day, it's Friday.
No, honestly. Yeah. I found it's a great idea. I was laughing my heart when I said, you're right in the middle. You're right in the middle of the demonstration. Take a picture, send it to your son, and tell them there is nothing. They got to know.
Yeah.
I remember very much when I had a friend of mine who lives by Sphinx Square, and he was watching, he lives there, and he was watching on one of the days on that TV channel, Life, and it was showing a huge demonstration.
Yeah, I've saw these pictures,
right on the
TV, and he took a
and he took it on the TV and he showed it.
Yeah, just reach,
And aren't they ashamed of themselves? I mean,
No, they're not. Yesterday too, there was something very funny. They just said, this is a demonstration, and there were just people coming out of prayers, and they're wearing winter clothes. Now we're in summer, so it's just
Yes.
nobody would be wearing winter clothes.
no,
So
aren't they ashamed of
hilarious.
themselves? I mean, I really went up, I was sitting with my clients yesterday, and we start talking, they say, okay, come back to the hotel, we'll sit and have coffee. Now we want to be educated about politics. What's Arab Spring, and what is this, and what is that? That's the best way of fighting the media in the West, by giving a true message to the people right on ground. If they are here on ground, give it to them.
Exactly.
So I told them, look, I explained to them who's Kulthum, Najib Mahfouz, Jacob, the heart surgeon,
Yes.
Zuhail, Al-Khatib,
All the real Egyptians,
the football player.
the personalities.
And I told them, listen, if I hate to bring the map of the Middle East on my phone, it's going to be too little, but if I buy a big map the size of this table, and I try to show you the countries causing all this trouble, if a fly sits on it, it's going to disappear from the map. So, who they are. I understand the jealousy. I understand the people over here in Egypt, they're being paid from abroad
Yes.
to spread the negative energy. And they're being paid by dollars.
Yes.
And the dollar has gone up. So if they were...
Anything to keep the dollar coming,
Yeah, if they were given $5,000 a month, which this is the average they all get, 5,000 at that time was 30,000 Egyptian pound. Today, 5,000 is 50,000, almost 50,000 Egyptian pounds. So their income has increased, and they want to get a little bit more. So their speed of trying to make you see negative things. Look, I'm addressing the Egyptian people who is sitting and watching us now. It's either you want to see the negative, it's your choice, or you want to join us. Look at the bright side. As Michael says, this is a great country. No one has what we have.
True.
So if we sit and discuss this guy with 7 languages and he hardly
Seven language, no languages at all. Sabah Sanaya. And then nothing at all. Actually,
He did the PhD on the elevator. It's a joke. We want to build a country. And at the other hand, look at the president. He was at Jabal Jalala over there, working on the new development city over there. And you know what? The Middle East and all the Arabs, their eyes are targeting Egypt now. The central bank says, if you bring your dollars and exchange it in the bank, we'll give you right away, we'll give you 15% interest. There is things happening, okay? But people have to understand and see what is going on. That is very positive. Arabs are thinking of bringing their investment over here. Bear in mind one thing, very important. When they send their investment abroad, now they can't take it back.
True.
They can't take it back. And I believe there is a dispute right now going between Saudi Arabia and the United States over if they were involved in 9/11 or not. And then Obama is going, I think, on Wednesday to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia now is saying we can pull out all our investments as well. The world is changing. The map will change.
But all these projects and all what happened and happening in the last couple of years will get its fruits within maybe a few years' time. But still, I believe that the quickest way of people to feel the development is tourism. Because the money goes directly to the people rather than having a project or something to be done and it takes a couple of years to be built and it takes a couple of more years to get its return. but tourism goes straight to the people.
We've unfortunately came to the end of this episode. I'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Michel Williams, for being with us, and Ms. Walid Batoushi for being with us. With the pleasure and the honor of having you here, and the honor of our viewers also being there with us. We'll just have once the developments, and if a positive.
There is. We're coming back soon to you, probably by 2 weeks from now, with some very, very positive and good news, inshallah.
Hopefully, inshallah. I'll have to leave you now. We'll give the grounds to the stock market latest news. I'm Navin Nazim. Thank you for joining us. Wishing you all the best. God bless our Egypt. God bless our Egyptian army. God bless Egyptian people and our president. We leave the ground for my colleague Nomin Abdulrahman with the latest in the stock market. Bye for now. See you next week.
Egypt's government will seal 20 investment agreements and MOUs with French companies during the upcoming official visit of French President François Hollande to Cairo next Sunday. Fouad Nounis, head of the Egyptian-French Business Council, said those agreements will be in renewable energy, transportation, training, water and sewage, as well as infrastructure projects in Suez Canal corridor. Hollande, who will head a delegation of 60 businessmen, will open along with his Egyptian counterpart the Egyptian-French Business Forum on Monday at the presence of around 400 Egyptian businessmen. France's investments in Egypt reached 3.2 billion euro till the end of 2014. An official at the Ministry of Finance said Egypt aspires to obtain the first $1 billion tranche of World Bank $3 billion loan next May. In December, the World Bank approved granting Egypt a 3-year loan to support the state budget. Hafiz Ghanem, World Bank's Vice President for the Middle East and North Africa, said Egypt is likely to receive the first $1 billion tranche of the $3 billion loan from after the House of Representatives votes on the economic reform program. The Egyptian exchange started rating session on a positive note as the benchmark rose 0.24% to 7,439 points. OTMT topped the list of trading values at 10:30 a.m. Cairo local time, registering 56.5 million Egyptian pounds after 78 million shares were traded. However, its stock declined by 5.26%. Saudi Aramco signs an agreement with our petroleum pipelines company to increase Saudi's oil supply to Europe. Tariq al-Mullah, Minister of Petroleum, said Egypt's Sidi Krer and Ain Sukhna terminals will be used by Saudi Arabia to pump higher volume of oil into Europe. In addition, The agreement also entails the use of Sumed's facility for storing Saudi oil, along with turning Sidi Crater into a regional hub for Saudi crude oil. The Egyptian pound was stable at Tuesday's foreign currency sale, but strengthened slightly on the black market a day after the 5-day visit by Saudi Arabia's King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud saw the signing of billions of dollars worth of investment projects. Egypt's central bank sold 120 million US dollars at the rate of 8.78 pounds to the dollar at its regular sale, which it holds every Tuesday. Egypt has been facing a dollar shortage since the popular uprising in 2011 drove away tourists and foreign investors, major sources of hard currency. Deficit in Egypt's state budget saw an increase by 20.4% in the first 7 months of the fiscal year 2015-2016. The country's deficit amounted to 191.6 billion Egyptian pounds, or 6.8% of GDP during the 7-month period, compared with 159.1 billion Egyptian pounds, or 6.5% of GDP in the same period a year earlier. Egyptian company for mobile services Orange Egypt said its losses for the first quarter of 2016 decreased by 65% year over year to 12.3 million Egyptian pounds from 35 millions. Meanwhile, the unaudited standalone financial statements reveal that the company turned profitable in the first quarter of 2016 after achieving a net profit of 21.8 million Egyptian pounds against a net loss of 5.3 million for the year-ago quarter. Britain's economy lost steam in the first 3 months of the year, according to a major survey of businesses that showed domestic demand slipped for both services and manufacturing companies. The British Chambers of Commerce quarterly economic survey follows a string of lackluster data since the start of the year, with industrial output declining sharply and consumer confidence fading from highs seen last year. Domestic sales growth for manufacturers receded to the lowest level since the end of 2012, and for services this was the weakest since mid-2013. Oil gave up short-lived gains following mixed U.S. government data that showed a bigger-than-expected build in crude stockpiles, rising gasoline demand, and falling oil production. Brent crude was down 61 cents at 44.08 US dollars a barrel, having briefly risen to a new 2016 high of 44.94 US dollars following the release of the EIA figures. US crude was settled down 41 cents or 0.97% at 41.76 after also rising to a 2016 high of 42.42. China's consumer price inflation rose less than expected in March, flattening out after a 4-month strengthening trend, but wholesale prices remained stubbornly in deflation. Consumer prices in March rose 2.3% below a median forecast of 2.5% in a Reuters poll, but equal to February's increase of 2.3%. Economists have been watching closely to see how inflation evolves in China this year, following prolonged easing campaign by the central bank beginning in late 2014, which has boosted credit but has yet to result in substantial price increases. Better than expected Chinese trade data, which prompted hopes the world's second largest economy was beginning to stabilize, set the tone for a positive day for investors. A rise in U.S. crude inventories, which contributed to a 1% fall in oil prices, did not dampen the mood, while better than expected results from U.S. bank J.P. Morgan gave further support to the market. Weak U.S. retail sales also helped dampening fears of an immediate rise in U.S. interest rates. In Greece, though, the Athens market dipped 0.83% to 548.83 on continuing concerns about an agreement between the country and its creditors on its bailout. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) has once again lowered its forecasts for the world economy. The IMF's latest World Economic Outlook now predicts global growth of 3.2% this year and 3.5% in 2017. The agency chief economist Maurice Obstfeld described the pace of growth as increasingly disappointing. He said it left the world economy more exposed to negative risks. Before the latest downgrade, the IMF had expected global growth of 3.4% this year and 3.6% next year. Gold is slightly as the US dollar strengthened, but analysts are still betting on the precious metal to post further gains. The price of gold, as well as other precious metals like silver, is sensitive to fluctuations in currency markets and discussions around the interest rate increase in the United States. They react more strongly to developments in the US dollar and expectations about the Fed rate cycle, noted Georgette Boel, coordinator for foreign exchange and precious metals strategy at ABN AMRO. According to Oli Hansen, head of the commodity strategy at Saxo Bank, lower expectations of U.S. interest rate increase and other factors, like the continued negative yields on high-quality sovereign bonds, will continue to provide gold with support.